Welcome to The Explainer. So glad you're here because today we're diving into something most of us use every single day, but rarely think deeply about. We're talking about the incredible journey of a second chance tire. That's right, we're going to explore exactly how worn out passenger car tires actually earn a safe, highly regulated second life out there on the open road. Picture this. You're cruising down the highway at a cool 120 kilometers per hour. Would you trust a recycled tire to get you there safely? Honestly, ask yourself that. Because for a lot of folks, the word recycled or retreaded just conjures up images of old, unsafe rubber peeling off on the side of the road. But what if I told you that giving a tire a second life isn't guesswork? It is a precise, incredibly documented, scientifically backed process. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap. We'll hit the retread revolution, tire anatomy 101, who makes the cut, the retreading process, and finally, the stamp of approval. All right, Chapter 1, the retread revolution, setting the standard. First off, let's toss our assumptions right out the window. We are stepping into the realm of highly standardized international safety rules here. So what exactly is retreading? Well, it's defined as the generic term for refurbishing a used tire by replacing the worn tread with completely new material. Make no mistake, this is a complete rebuild. We aren't talking about a simple patch job on a flat tire. We are literally rebuilding the tire's main contact point with the earth. And the rulebook governing all of this? Oh, it's massive. We're talking about United Nations Regulation number 108. This dense, highly official document from the UN's Economic Commission for Europe is the exact framework we're decoding today. Every single second chance tire out there has to answer to this incredibly strict set of rules. Now, not every piece of rubber makes it under this specific umbrella. The regulations are crystal clear on what is covered and what isn't. Regulation 108 is strictly for passenger cars and their trailers. But check out those exclusions. It totally cuts out the extreme edge cases. Got a high-speed tire meant to go over 300 kilometers per hour? Out. Vintage car equipment? Out. Racing tires or those fancy run-flat structures? Completely excluded. This regulation is laser-focused on one thing: ensuring the safety of the everyday vehicles that you and I drive. Moving right along to Chapter 2, Tire Anatomy 101, Knowing the Parts. Because, before we can actually rebuild a tire, we've got to speak the language. And a standard tire is surprisingly complex inside. To really get retreading, you need to grasp three main parts. First up, the carcass. That's the backbone, the structural powerhouse that supports the load when it's inflated. Next is the tread, the thick outer rubber that grips the road and protects that carcass. And finally, the sidewall, which bridges the gap between the tread and the wheel rim. Every single one of these plays a huge role in a tire's second life. We also need to talk about the internal chords, because there is a massive difference between radial ply and diagonal or bias ply structures. In a radial tire, those internal ply chords run straight up to the beads at exactly 90 degrees to the tread's center. It makes for a very, very stable structure. But in a diagonal or bias ply tire, those chords crisscross at alternating angles, way less than 90 degrees. Getting this structural difference right is absolutely crucial because it totally dictates how the tire behaves and how it has to be handled during the refurbishment process. Okay, Chapter 3, Who Makes the Cut? The Strict Inspection. This is where the high-stakes drama of our journey really kicks in. Every single tire faces a brutal inspection, and believe me, plenty of them do not make it. The magic number here? 7. Under Section 6.3 of the regulations, the absolute maximum age for a casing to even be considered for retreading is 7 years. Inspectors check the original manufacturing digits, and if that tire's older than 7, game over. Journey ends right there. It turns out tire years are kind of like dog years. It doesn't matter how pretty it looks on the outside, time degrades rubber, and the UN takes absolutely zero chances. So, if a tire is actually young enough, it faces what I like to call the checklist of doom. It's a wildly strict internal and external exam. Extensive cracking that goes down to the carcass, rejected. Any carcass penetrations, rejected. Appreciable oil or chemical damage, you guessed it, rejected. What if the bead is damaged or there are exposed cords from tread wear? Totally rejected. The UN has a hardline, zero-tolerance policy for structural damage. Which brings us to Chapter 4, the retreading process, the makeover. For the lucky few that survive that gauntlet, welcome to the makeover stage. This is where the highly controlled physical transformation finally starts. Step 1 is buffing. This means carefully removing the old material from the casing to prep it for the new stuff. And the rules are super explicit. This has to be done strictly without overheating. You can think of it like meticulously prepping a patient for a highly regulated medical transplant. The surface has to be pristine, the texture has to be perfect, and you absolutely cannot have any deep lacerations or loose material. All right, let's see how this prepped surface actually gets its new life. The UN allows 3 distinct step-up methods for retreading. Method 1 is top capping, and that's just replacing the worn tread itself. Method 2 is recapping, where you replace the tread, but the new material also wraps around part of the sidewall. And the granddaddy of them all is bead to bead. That is a total replacement of the tread, plus a complete top-to-bottom renovation of the entire sidewall. Finally, Chapter 5, the stamp of approval, earning the markings. We've made it to the climax of the journey. This is where a fully rebuilt tire earns its mandatory safety certifications, basically proving to the world it survived the process. By law, the word retread has to be proudly and permanently marked right on the sidewall, either raised above or sunk into the rubber. This isn't some secret to hide, it's a badge of honor. It is total transparency for the consumer, proving it passed every single standard in UN Regulation 108. You can even pinpoint exactly when this makeover happened. The regulations mandate a 4-digit date stamp, and I'm going to show you how to decode it. Let's say you see the code 2503. Those first 2 digits, that's the week. The second 2, the year. So this specific tire was granted its second life in week 25 of the year 2003. Now you know exactly how to read a retread's birthday. And the credentials don't stop there. The sidewall gets loaded up with a final cluster of vital badges. You'll see the Retreader's brand name, the specific tire size designation, an R indicating a radial structure, and most crucially, the International E approval mark. That E surrounded by a circle, that is the ultimate proof. It guarantees that this retread will perform just as safely and reliably as a brand new tire straight off the factory floor. So, knowing what you know now about the intensely strict inspections, the precise buffing, the absolute UN oversight, and those permanent safety badges, will your next set of tires be a certified second chance? It's definitely something to chew on when you think about your own driving choices, safety, and how we can all support a bit more sustainability on the open road. Thanks for hanging out with me for this deep dive. Catch you on the next explainer.